So, a very good morning to you all and a hearty welcome to these series of workshops, to these series of value-based seminars. And as you all know, today we've got two sessions. The first one is on stress management and the second one would be on work-life balance, striking a balance between home and work, which many of us face problems in. And each session would be for an hour and a quarter each, after which we can have a, say, 15 minutes question answer session to clarify some of your doubts and questions, if any. And we'll have a break of, say, half an hour between each session before we regroup for the second one. Yeah? Right, so the subject matter for this seminar, as you all know, is stress management. What exactly is stress? The anatomy of stress and how to manage it and eventually get rid of it from our lives by implementing the higher values, the time-tested eternal principles that we're going to discuss in the seminar. It's one of the most wanted topics around the world today. Ironically, friends, there's something that binds the whole world today. It's not any one ideology or love, which it ought to be. That's right. Unfortunately, it's stress. Stress binds the whole world in a thread, as it were, today. And everyone seems to be suffering from this mental disease, from this stress syndrome. Let it be young or old, man or woman, a student, a professional, a businessman, and even a retired person. Everyone is infested with stress. It's just a question of less or more in degree, but everybody are suffering from this mental disease. So stress is in the air of the world today. And what's worse, friends, is if we do not actively combat this menace, this mental disease, it leads to many ailments, physical and mental ailments. And as all the doctors and the psychologists ever, that more than 90% of our physical ailments are psychosomatic in nature, meaning it's emanating from the mind because of our stressed emotions. And the rise in tranquilizers, antidepressants, anti-anxiety relief pills holds a testimony to this fact, which is our unfortunate fact of life today. And even children are not spared of this menace today, thanks to the ignorance of their elders who are stressed themselves, and instead of finding out the root cause of their stress, their self-created stress, they pass it on to the next generation, to their children. They vent out their stress in the form of irritations, frustrations, anger, and disputes at home. And as you all know, it is this very stress, this very mental disease that plays an important role in alcoholism, in substance abuse, drug abuse, and in the extreme cases, even suicide. You see, these days, friends, we're very adept. We're very good at putting up a $1 million smile, you know, and saying everything is fine. You know, when we greet each other, we ask, how are you? And we put up a beautiful smile and say, I'm fine, thank you, how are you? It's almost mechanical. But if you sit down with that person for 5 minutes, you'll soon realize that most of the things in his life is not fine, and that he's stressed, he's strained, which is the case with one and all. We are not here as pessimists to criticize or be judgmental, but we are here to analyze. You see, the difference between a pessimist and a realist, the difference between a pessimist and an optimist, friends, is that a pessimist only sees the negative side of life, and he keeps brooding about it, keeps complaining about it, and does nothing to solve it. That's a pessimist. Whereas a realist or an optimist sees both sides of life, negative and positive, and he's got clear-cut, crystal clear solutions to eradicate the negativities from our life. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the seminar. We are here to analyze what stress is in depth and uproot it from its very source, so that we are free from this mental disease. Now friends, as a part of my thorough research and study on this topic of stress management, I myself have attended many seminars on this topic, and I've read many books by different authors. And if not all, most of them are very lavish, are very liberal in giving quick fixes, in giving temporary solutions to combat stress. For example, some people say, breathe deeply when you're stressed, you know. Others say, drink water, sip it slowly, or count 10 to 1. While others say, laugh out. You know, join a laughing club and laugh your lungs out. Whereas others say, just take a short break when you're stressed, go for a movie, listen to some music, and if you can afford, go to a spa and have a royal massage to de-stress. And if the stress is more severe, then go for a longer break, go for a vacation, go for a holiday, you know. And eventually, if it's very severe, go to a psychiatrist. Now friends, don't get me wrong, don't misunderstand. I am not against weekends and vacations and these entertainments of life. By all means, have them. But I'll give you an example to illustrate what exactly I'm trying to mean. You see, we all like to go to a restaurant or to a hotel for a change, to have food, you know, just for a change. We all enjoy it. But God forbid it should not be so that the food at your home is so horrible that you're helpless. Helplessly, choicelessly, you have to go to a restaurant to eat food. Now that's a sad scenario. Now that's exactly what I'm trying to mean over here. It should not be that you're suffering from the stress and strain of work. Action has become a burden for you. And because of that, you want to take a weekend or a vacation or holiday and all these entertainments. Because, friends, remember this law of life. If we cannot find peace and happiness and bliss in our work, in action, I'm sorry, you can't find it by abstaining from action. Please examine and experience this truth. And I'm sure most of you would have already experienced it. By abstaining from work, we won't find real peace and happiness. So if we scientifically and carefully analyze these temporary fixes, these quick fixes that many so-called management gurus give out, they're just fleeting, momentary in nature. You see, what we're doing in effect is, when we're stressed and we just get away from that environment for some time by taking a vacation, or what we're doing is we're just distracting our mind, we're deviating our mind. But once we are back to our work, what's happening? Again, the stresses are back, the stress level is back. So we're not going to the root cause, we're not going to the source of stress and eradicating it from there. You see, another example is, imagine someone is shot with a bullet in the arm, you know, and he's trying to heal the wound by changing bandages after bandages. Now, that's not going to really help unless he goes to the root cause and pulls out the bullet and then bandages it. So please, I'm not suggesting that we should not make use of these temporary solutions. We must not take breaks and weekends and vacations. By all means, take help from them. At most, they can give us that breathing space to pause and to think, what is the root cause of stress? Why are we really stressed? And take charge and take responsibility of our stressors in life and strike at the very roots, go to the very roots and uproot it from there. Yeah? So my research on this subject was to find out the main cause, the root cause of stress, friends. And when I give you the root cause, when we go to the very source of all the stress in our life, then I need not give you solutions. You yourself will come out with beautiful ideas, with innovative ideas to get rid of the stress in your life. Yeah? It's exactly like this, in mathematics, we've got formulas, we've got basic principles, the fundamental principles, the fundamental rules. And once you understand that formula, that theorem, then it's a question of using that formula in different problems and solving it through your innovative ways. Yeah, exactly. Once you understand the root cause of all stress in life, you'll be able to come out with your beautiful ideas to get rid of it from your life. Not only will you manage and get rid of the stress in your life, you'll be able to help others, your family, your organization, the society, your country and the world at large. Because only a stress-free person, a person who's free from this menace, can help those who are already stressed. Yeah? Now, friends, previously, on the request of the audience and the request of participants, I have conducted this seminar for almost a day, for almost 6 hours, of course, with breaks in between. And the first thing I do in such an elongated session is ask the participants about their stress situations, about their stressors. Where are they experiencing stress from? But since we can't afford to do that in this limited time that we've got, I'll quickly enumerate the most common stress factors, the stressors that seem to stress us out in this day and age. And whatever strikes a chord with you, whatever relates to your personal life, you can take that and then we apply the time-tested and eternal higher values that we're going to discuss in this seminar to combat stress. So let's look at some stressors, some stress factors that most of the people refer to. So many people say they're stressed out because of deadlines, time management. So they get nightmares of not being able to reach their targets, their deadlines. So when they're moving from place to place, meeting different people, there's this constant fear and stress that what if they are unable to meet up with their targets. So they feel pressured and pushed to get better and better and to acquire more and more. All this causes a lot of stress in the mind. Yeah? Others say that they're stressed out because of responsibilities. Responsibilities at home, their responsibilities at office. That stresses them out. Whereas others complain of results. The anxiety about the results. What if the results are unfavorable? What if they meet up with failure? Now that causes a lot of stress in people. And for the teenagers, for students, it's exam pressure, their assignments, peer pressure, that causes a lot of stress in the teenagers today. And for others, it's competition, a lot of competition from others. What if the other person goes ahead? What if he overtakes me in my ideas, in my actions, in my organization? So competition creates a lot of stress in people. And another stress factor is expectations. Both ways, what expectations, what others have from us, and we are unable to live up to other people's expectations, and vice versa, our expectations from others, when others are unable to live up to our expectations, when that does not happen, there's a lot of stress and strain. And some people talk about relationship-related stress. So the daughter-in-law complains of stress from the mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law complains stress from the daughter-in-law. And stress, relation-related stress between spouses. The wife complains of a hysterical and a dominating husband, and the wife complains, and the husband complains of a nagging wife. Similarly, unfortunately today, a lot of stress between parents and children. Each party says that the other party does not understand our point of view. Children say parents don't understand us. Parents say, well, the children are not understanding our point of view. So a lot of stress between parent-child relationship. And yet others, they're stressed out because of the weather. When the weather is too hot, they're stressed. When it's too cold, they don't like it, they're stressed out. Or during monsoons, it's very wetty. So stress from the weather gods. And others will find it difficult to balance their home and work, so that creates a lot of stress, again responsibilities. And yet others, if they don't have any other stress, they're stressed out because of the traffic. So traffic stresses them out in cities, a lot of traffic these days, you know. So before they go to office, at home they're in a good mood, but by the time they reach office they're stressed out. Their mood is off because they've got caught up in the traffic and they're stressed. Similarly, before leaving for home at office they're fine. By the time they reach home they're stressed out because they're caught up in traffic. And they went out their stress on the family members because of traffic. And believe you me, however ironic it might sound, there are people today who are so acclimatized to stress, friends. They're so used to stress that when there is no stress, that bumps them, that stresses them, because they're so acclimatized to the agitation. So when they're in a stress-free environment and they're not experiencing any stress, they think there's something wrong, you know, in them or in the environment, that they're not stressed. So they're uncomfortable. They feel like a fish out of water. As the saying goes, you know, stress is like a rocking chair. Stress and worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you a strong feeling that you're getting somewhere, but no, it takes you nowhere. That's stress for us. So now there are so many sources of stress, friends. So many sources of stress. And now, friends, if I want you to be very attentive now, that we're coming to a very serious point. If we scientifically and carefully observe all these stresses that are enumerated and others that you might be having in your mind, all these stress factors are coming from an external source, are coming from outside. But the first lesson, the first principle that we learn in stress management, friends, is that stress is entirely an internal phenomenon. I repeat, stress is entirely an internal phenomenon. People, out of sheer ignorance, wrongly believe that external sources causes stress. We blame the world, we blame people, we blame different situations, circumstances. We even blame stars, planets, time, everything possible. But we do not care to pause and re-examine this misconception, this wrong belief system in us. And that is, stress is coming from an external source. Stress is an external phenomenon. We have taken it for granted. I request you all to remember this aphorism, this adage, this great statement highlighting one of the most important truths of life, and that is, it is not the world that stresses us, but how we relate to the world. I repeat for what it's worth, friends, it is not the world that stresses us, but how we relate to the world determines our stressors and stress levels. And if we do not challenge this wrong belief system in us, I'm sorry, we won't be even taking the first step to combat stress in our life. If we are stuck up with this wrong belief system that stress comes from an external source, we won't be able to manage our stress and eventually get rid of it. So this wisdom that stress is an internal phenomenon, it's the way we relate to the world that causes us stress, is a wisdom that's coming from the greatest of thinkers, the greatest of intellectuals, let it be Albert Einstein, Albert Schweitzer, our great Mahatma Gandhi, or the great philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. And there are many more, many more. These greatest of thinkers, greatest of intellectuals, greatest of scientists, out of their direct experience have attested to this fact of life. But you need not take anything for granted. As one master would say, positive skepticism is healthy, is positive. So be skeptical about it. Question it. We need not gulp down anything that the wise men have said in the past. We got to examine it, experiment it, and come to experience it for ourselves. We got to test out its veracity for ourselves. We got to approach it as a science, just as we do with any other science, you know. We experiment with it and come to experience its veracity. So scientifically examine this truth of life, that stress is an internal phenomenon. It's the way we relate to the world. And we'll prove it. By the end of this seminar, we'll prove this highest truth of life by chaste reason and logic, and by looking at practical examples in our day-to-day life as to how stress is an internal phenomenon. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that there wouldn't be unfavorable situations in life. There wouldn't be difficult people that we'll be coming across in life. You see, the world is full of challenges, no doubt, and it's a pair of opposites, and it's in a constant flux of change. So we all would be coming across favorable as well as unfavorable situations in life. We'll be coming across difficult as well as easy people in our life. These are inevitables of life. But friends, it is the attitude with which we meet our challenges, it's the attitude with which we meet unfavorable and difficult people in our life that determines our stress. I'll give you two examples to corroborate this truth of life. The first one, and these are practical examples that we all experience in our day-to-day life. Example number one, a person picks up a glass of alcohol and he enjoys it. He gains a lot of pleasure. Whereas another person, he detests alcohol. He can't even stand the smell of alcohol. It stresses him out. So alcohol, being the same, produces joy to one and stress and strain to another. Example number two. You see, there's a certain set of people that we like to maintain a good relationship with. We look forward to their company. We like them. Whereas there is another set of people, or it could be even one person who we would be disliking, and we don't want to maintain company. We want to maintain a distance from such people. But that very same set of people who we want to maintain a distance from, who we dislike, are liked by others. In fact, others look forward to having a good company with them, with those people who we dislike, and vice versa. So the same person or the same set of people produces ecstasy to one and agony to another. Now, what does this prove? It just proves the fact that stress or joy, stress or happiness is not inherent in the objects and beings of the world. It is in us, it is in the way we relate to it. Because if stress was a part of the world, if stress was inherent in the object and beings of the world, it would have stressed out one and all. But it's not so. So joy or stress, happiness or stress is not in the world, it's in us, it's in the way we relate to it. You see, the same challenge, we see this very often, the same challenge. One person comes out victorious, another person fails miserably. Why is that? The same challenge, the same examination. Because one has the mental and intellectual strength, the inner capacity to face that challenge, and he comes out victorious without any stress. Whereas another person, the same challenge, he's stressed out and he comes out as a failure. So what does it all boil down to? It all boils down to strengthening our intellect, building our inner personality, making ourselves strong from within so that when we meet the world, the different challenges in the world, we're not stressed. Rather, we get joy and happiness from the world. And friends, that's precisely the time-tested and eternal values that we are going to discuss in this seminar. This seminar is going to educate us on how to relate to the world, our relationships with the world, so that what we get at the end of the day is happiness and happiness alone, which we all want. And all this is going to be backed by chaste reason and logic and the experience of greatest of thinkers, greatest of masters, as we've seen. So we got to dive deep and find out where exactly stress emanates from. Where is stress emanating from? What's the root cause of all our stress in life? So that we can manage it initially and eventually get rid of it from our lives, and not merely try to patch it from external sources through temporary and fleeting quick fixes. So if I may ask you all, friends, how would we define stress in simple terms? What is stress in layman's language? And where do you think stress is emanating from? You see, unless we understand and pinpoint, this is where stress is emanating from, this is the root cause, we won't be able to catch the bull by the horns, as they say. And once you know the source, the root cause, you know exactly what to do. As we just saw earlier, you come up with your innovative ideas to combat it. Remember that example of mathematics. Once you know the formula, you can apply it in different problems and solve it. So, I want you all to think and answer. I'm going to make this seminar a little interactive, lest it's a monologue. And please don't think I'm trying to test you all, because I know you all are much wiser than me. Nor is my intention to make you all scholars in stress management. But I'm just trying to follow the basic principle of education. And as you all know, the word educate means to draw out. So once it's drawn out of you, once it comes out of your thought process, then it becomes a part and parcel of your life. It becomes a part of you. Knowledge is transformed into wisdom, into practical living. So once it comes out of you, you know it. So I'm just trying to facilitate this true spirit of education. And as we go along, friends, you can clarify your doubts and ask questions. So please, I'd like you to think and answer what exactly is stress in layman's language, in simple terms, and where do you think and feel stress is emanating from? Yeah, anybody?